Hello, friends, and welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast with Chris and Stephen. You join us on a lovely sunny day, middle of a so-called heat wave, but really we call it summer. So we're quite warm in our little space here, but we're looking forward to this episode. Been waiting to do it for quite a while on reincarnation, and more specifically, is reincarnation a trap? There's a lot of theories out there. We're not here to say what's right or wrong. We just want to share our theories today. Something that's a really, really fascinating subject. We might even have to do a couple of parts on this. So we're going to give it our best go in this episode today. There's a lot of theories out there, Stephen, about when we pass, whether we should be going to the light or not, or whether we're sent back through the reincarnation process, almost like the Earth's a bit of a trap in a way. A lot of different theories are out there. I know a lot of our core teachings are from the circle work we've done, from our personal experiences in meditations and through our healing process, and also through some of the people we've come across in our books that we've read as well, Dolores Cannon and the recent book you've read as well.
With Michael Newton, yeah.
Yeah, and I know even through when I found Dolores Cannon's work, which wasn't that long ago really, a lot of the recounts that she gave of the reincarnation process, and specifically the moment that you passed to spirit, very much aligned with me. And that was from hundreds, if not more, if not thousands, of clients that she'd had through the regression process that had recounted the same scenario or similar scenario over and over again when we pass to the spirit world. So what's your thoughts on this subject?
Well, you know, the work that we've been doing, we're researchers, aren't we? We've been doing this work for 25 years now, and during this time through regression, like you mentioned, personal journeys, we've gained a lot of insight and personal experience behind, you know, is reincarnation a trap? Now, it's a massive subject, reincarnation, isn't it? And to really get our teeth into it, I think personally, I don't think reincarnation is a trap. I think because it's such a massive subject and there's different angles you can go into, is that there is that theory that people think that once you go over to the spirit world, you then force back, that you have to go back to live another life, another reincarnation. That's ongoing, that's continuous. Now, I think there's a lot of lack of understanding, a lot of lack of inner work people have done and have twisted and changed and don't really understand really the process behind reincarnation, what actually reincarnation is and what the earth is. So there's different angles you can go into. I think on a personal level, what I've personally experienced, I've not seen that. I've not seen people get trapped. I think sometimes souls will once they go back home to spirit and they meet with the guides and the teachers, they almost feel maybe, oh, I didn't get that quite right. I didn't get that quite right. I didn't sort that contract out. I didn't sort that karma out.
Yeah.
I might come back maybe next time and I'll try again and I will have a look at that karma. I'll have a look at that. So there's different, I don't personally think that there is, once we go into the light, once we go home to spirit, we're free divine beings, we're powerful beings.
Well, you make a good point there because, you know, so much teachings and thoughts from people have been brought forward about us being sovereign beings, powerful beings, all these things. And to me, straight away, with that particular theory of reincarnation being a trap, what I take from that immediately is it's very in a victim state. There's this system and it's out to get us and we're the victim of it, where I actually find the teachings of reincarnation being tremendously empowering. They're actually taking you out the view and showing you what you've chosen, why you've chosen it. And in any sort of very, very strong, powerful healing or spiritual experience I've had, that's what it's done in my life, where we've maybe got trapped in the tunnel in a way.
Trapped in your life, in this identity.
Oh God, this is horrible and I'm not doing this again. I don't want to be in this earth. And for me, if you want to call it enlightening experience does, it draws you back from that so you can see the full view of everything. Oh, that's why I met that person who was really hard work in my life, but actually they were a mirror of a part of me. But it's interesting because you recently read a book on Michael Newton as well, didn't you? And he talked about the light as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to make a point what you said there. I think it's something that I was showing quite a while ago, which is sometimes I think souls. Let's talk about human beings. We've all, in my belief, we've all reincarnated to the earth for a purpose. What that purpose is depends on the individual soul. Yeah. Your purpose is different to my purpose, but we've got common contracts, why we've met up together, is learning to, I think if anybody's listening to this, is sometimes we get overly attached to this human life, to this physical life, and we over-identify ourselves into this being. Look at me, I'm called Stephen, and I can over-identify, I'm gay, I'm Stephen, I'm run the Purple Mountain, while I'm much more than that. That's only part of my soul. So there is that over-attachment. So my advisement, my guidance to people listening is learning to observe. Try to observe yourself, observe your life, rise above rather than getting over-attached. I think that's where a lot of the confusion is behind the trap. But talking about the Michael Newton book has been, it's actually opened up some amazing things within my own development, my own awareness. I had a regression session 3 years ago, and I'm having another one next week with you, Chris, and reading the Michael Newton book, and it's been on my shelf. We were laughing about this because you contacted me, didn't you? Said, have you heard this book? Have you seen this book? And I went, I have seen this book.
Well, this is amazing synchronicity. This would be a good story to tell.
Well, you rang me, didn't you, saying, have you seen this book? Have you read this book? And I thought, I know this cover. And you've been in my office, haven't you, Chris? And I've got 2 big bookshelves. And I remember my mum buying me, it was like a library. My mum buying me this book, I think 12, 13 years ago. And I've never read it. I actually started reading it then, and I thought, I don't get this. I don't understand it. So I put it back on my shelf. And then when you told me about it, I picked the book up. And in that evening, I thought, I'm going to start reading this. Obviously, there's something more into it. And I end up reading quarter of the book in the evening thinking, oh my God, this is so, I really resonate with some of the regression sessions that he shared in this book.
It just shows you that you find information when you're meant to. Like when we first got into this work, there was what I'd say the bare bones of reincarnation was sort of given to us, the teachings. And probably if we would have had any more at the time, we would have either dismissed them or not understood them, found them too confusing. So everything can be very incremental, can't it, that way? But I think what would be good to talk about is, which I've found tremendously helpful, and I really encourage people to seek this out. There's a video Dolores Cannon did on the 3 waves of volunteers, because I just want to give, in a way, I don't feel reincarnation is a trap, but it can be in a certain way. But we don't get entrapped, we entrap ourselves. And the way we entrap ourselves, I feel, and the earth is entrapped, many on the earth have entrapped themselves, is through karmic loops.
Right.
Not forgiving, holding on to things, feeling like this one life is so very, very important that we have to, we can't let things go, we can't forgive, getting held in this one life. And I think through that, we can entrap ourselves. Dolores Cannon talks about it, and very briefly, I'll go over this because you know it as well, don't you? Is where the earth got to a stage, I think it was sort of just after World War II, and there was a concern by those other beings who can observe the earth but can't interfere. And the only way they would interfere is if the earth was in a danger of, the people on the earth were in a danger of destroying the earth in some way. So they were looking at this and saying, right, we're concerned. It's getting to a dangerous stage, but what can we do? We can't interfere. So what they did was, as so many people were entrapped in these same karmic cycles on the earth, they sent a call out to the universe to say, does anybody want to reincarnate from another world, another planet? and you won't have that karma, and they'll be able to break things up. And they were known as the 3 waves of volunteers that came in 3 waves, obviously. Anybody who's interested in that, I strongly recommend to look at it. But for me, that felt right to me. And I feel that's, in a way, that is our own trap, that we can trap ourselves into believing. And you can see this in the world right now, that this is the only life we're living. We're gonna live our life. We're gonna go in a box, and that's the end of it. And actually, that can be a very, very limited way to live, because you're putting everything on this one life. You're holding on to every single thing. Whereas if you're able to see, well, I've been here before, I've been here, I will be here again. This is one experience of many. You're able to draw back from that and fully live it.
Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you say, about not over-identifying this life, which I agree with wholeheartedly. But then also we're more than this life, but also this is the life that is the most important, because it's the one we are living, observing, and experiencing in this moment. The end of the day, talking about the Dolores Cannon teachings, I've not, in the regressions I've done, I've not come across any kind of volunteers, but like in the Michael Newton's book, why it resonates with us is that a lot of the regressions and teachings I relate to, because I've experienced some of that.
Yes.
I've experienced some of the things, the knowledge, the teachings. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've experienced that in some of my plant medicine work, meditations, channelings, even my own regressions. So there is a common strand of truth in a lot of the books and the teachings. So that resonates with me. That really empowers me.
And you can see it at the minute on the earth, where the same things are coming up over and over again, maybe a little bit quicker, the same lessons, the same situations. So in essence, for me, I feel we always have that free will, but we can entrap ourselves in a way of.
Yeah, let's go to, I think it's important to mention as well to the listener that when you talk about the higher beings that observe or watch over, to talk about the cosmic council, look over to the earth, there is non-interference in Earth's progression or in our individual souls, because we've come back. The Earth is such a powerful place where souls can come back and learn about free will and choice and have these amazing, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to have these experiences. But also, like you said, there was too much karma that was accumulated, and we were going to end up, we were going to blow each other up. We were going to destroy the earth ultimately. However, because there is that universal law, spirit can't come in and change the plan. There was another way, which was to invite higher beings or more, maybe some more elevated healers, teachers, to come back to the earth and to help heal the ancestral cycles, to help heal, rebalance, because karma is imbalance, is rebalance the karma and repay off the cycle.
As well, I think we have to be a little bit careful of that word higher being gets overused a lot. These are just beings who are carrying karma as well.
Yeah.
They're not coming in with that clutter. So they're able to come in as a neutral, fresh perspective, which we might get into, is why when some people, are in certain families or certain scenarios, to help break that karma up as well.
Where does the expression comes on black sheep of the family? It's something that me and you've related to, and I know hundreds of people that I've spoken to. I feel so different in my family, because many of us have come back to certain family lineages to help clear. I know from personal experience, me and my older sister were meant to be the only ones that were supposed to reincarnate in my mum's family, but she changed the plan and she had more children, which is another story. That me and my older sister were not meant to have children. And where that resonated with me, because when I listened to the 3 waves and you showed me, we sat there in your front room, we listened to it. I think it was like a 3-hour YouTube video. And I thought that resonates with me, because that's the reason why I've not come back to have children, nor my sisters, because we've come back to break that karmic loop, break that karmic cycle, whatever that is, that energy, that psychic debt of karma, to heal it.
And I think we have to be just as much We have to be discerning of teachings that disempower us. We have to be discerning of some of the things that are particularly being talked about now in terms of other beings, which are very, very real, those who observe the earth, but sometimes they can be all romanticized, or these higher beings, they're going to come in and save the earth from this trap. And for me, that's not the way it is, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that's another story, but I just want to mention that because it's part of what we're talking about a bit is, you know, in a way, nobody's coming to save us. They're waiting for us to go, come on, you can do this. We're going to go, we're 10 time around or 10,000. You can do that this time. You know, they're observing the earth, watching what turn we're going to take next.
And then, you know, at the end of the day, I find it quite insulting, to be honest, to think that these Palladians, and don't get me wrong, I know that these councils exist 100%, cosmic beings and high beings, but then we fall into that trap of higher and lower again. And I think the earth is going through such a beautiful transition. It's all about insight. It's all about perception. People look at it as this dark period and, oh my God, the politicians and everyone's out to get us and we're going to destroy ourselves. No, we've all reincarnated to this point in time, this lifetime, because this is the most exciting time to live, because it is deemed as a quite of a hardship, suffering time for humanity. But this is the perfect space, the perfect time to learn. It's insulting to disempower humanity, to think that we're all this passive, submissive beings. No, we are great creators. We are the divine. We're creators. We are beautiful beings of love and light. And you talk about, I want to ask you about the Bringers of the Dawn, because that showed a lot of her teaching.
Yeah, that's another interesting book that was written, actually, I believe, in the early 90s. And I found that only a few years ago through a mutual friend of ours through this podcast. And it recounted the last 10 years of the earth, really, for me. And it was all about our sovereignty. And actually, for me, I just keep seeing that same scenario, drawing back and seeing how everything works. And that doesn't stop us experiencing it. This is the other side of things, which we may be going off subject a little bit here, is these teachings are so we can see what's coming. So we're able to understand what is happening and take us out of the victim state of the how and why. When we start to understand the how and why, we start to break certain chains, even physical change, physical pains, physical conditions, even when we start to do that. We're releasing ourselves in a way.
Can I just mention, because you just mentioned that, is I think you're absolutely spot on there. It's about something we feel very passionate about here at the Purple Mountain in our teachings, which is always be curious, always ask questions, because that expands, you know, always go within yourself, see what resonates with you, trust your feelings, because awareness is the key. But like you said, it's not going to quicken your progression. Us knowing all this, has that quickened our progression? It hasn't. We still have to experience life.
Yeah.
But I think what it helped me and you a lot of the years is get out of this over identifying this personality, this person, this name. And actually, when we do face, I think what's helped me, and I don't know about you, and ask you that question, is that it allows me to actually stop reacting as much and actually thinking, right, okay, I get it. I'm feeling this. It's bloody shit. I'm really hurt here, but I understand the reasons why.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more of emotional maturity now than I did 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's a balance to be had, if that makes sense, because if we draw too far away from the human experience, this is what we're seeing with all our spiritual teachings at the minute. Mm-hmm. They're actually drawing us away from the human experience that we've come back to have, that every experience is worth its weight in gold, even the tough times, the difficult times. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a balance to be had of that knowledge being very empowering, help us understand the hows, the whys, and empower us on our journey, and perhaps even encourage us not to take things so personal.
That's a massive thing, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So there is a definite balance to be had, but I just want to move on a little bit to our thoughts on reincarnation, because we've talked about a lot of the mechanics actually in that first part, which we wanted to tackle, about clarity, purpose, but we talk about choice, but why do we choose?
What,
And what do we
reincarnation?
choose? Yeah.
When we reincarnate, wow, you're in this, just take yourself out of this physical body. You are in spirit. And this is why, if you do want to know more about reincarnation, about why you are here, the first question I would recommend is, well, what is my purpose? And sometimes your purpose is just to be.
Yeah.
It's just to experience life. Sometimes you have a purpose to create something, to manifest something. I don't know. Everybody's different. Everyone's come back to create different things. While there's why comes down to the individual soul. But I would imagine when you are in spirit, you are in with your soul group, your soul family, and you are in the halls of learning, and you're sitting and you're chatting and you're experiencing these wonderful things that you've experienced in your previous life, and you're sharing them, and you're having your review, you're with your teachers that come and speak to you, and you're researching, you're looking at books. It's an amazing place in spirit. But then there is that feeling of wanting not to know more, but to expand that spiritual awareness and that inner consciousness in that what we call the unfoldment of the lotus. There's not levels in spirit. It's more unfoldment of progression. And just because some souls have had more lives doesn't make them more progression. How long's a piece of string? Everybody's different. But why would somebody reincarnate to the earth while the earth is, through my personal experience, one of the hardest schools? The earth is a school. It's one of the hardest schools to return to. The earth is considered at university level. And so at university level, Albert and some of our other channelings have said it's not going to be the easiest class. It's not going to be the same as primary school. So the experiences that you've asked to experience, whatever that is, the good and the bad, will help you to learn, to understand certain lessons. And it's all about learning about yourself, as learning about yourself as a soul. Know thyself in that unfoldment. And we had a lot of those recent channelings about the birth of the spirit and why reincarnate. But what's your thought?
Well, really simply is my understanding of reincarnation through many, many years, different facets, receiving in the trance process, meditations, healing work, ceremonial work, and other work, is that we very specifically choose our family, scenarios, very detailed, the country we'll reincarnate to, astrologically, the time that we'll reincarnate as well. All these, a lot of people realize that through doing birth charts and specific things like that. I'm not an astrologist, but I know a little bit about that. So we're choosing these specific scenarios. Now, again, I mentioned it a few times. What it takes us out is this victimhood. I'm not saying every situation's we should go, oh, this is lovely, but we've chosen to experience for a reason and a purpose. Sometimes it can be, as you've seen with a lot of our work and a lot of Dolores Cannon work, where it can be a reverse scenario. Perhaps what you're experiencing with a partner or someone in your family at the moment, that you were that person in the last life, that you were that person who needed care, that you were that person who had an addiction issue maybe, and you come back to experience it reverse in many ways. So specifically choosing, even our pets are connected, our animals as well. So all these different facets. And of course, things can change when we get to the earth. There's such a thing as cause and effects. Contracts can be rewritten. But the universe, to me, it's a little bit like, do you know when people say, I don't like my job, there's somebody there triggering me, there's this, there's that, the other, I'm going to change my job. And they change the job and the same lessons come up. So even if the plan is altered and the characters are altered, or the swift changes, the universe will reciprocate those lessons, that your intention, that you've come back to learn. So wherever you go, you will find that similar lesson, that similar scenario till the lessons learned.
It's mirrored, aren't you? Things
yeah.
are mirrored.
And something that come up quite recently through some spirit channelings that really simplified it really well, because a lot of people talk about ancestral healing, etc., and bringing things into this life. And really, it's about emotion, coming back to experience and feel, and all levels of emotion, not just happiness, joy, but also anger, scenarios like that. And maybe it's where our ancestors or those within our family lineage couldn't express that emotion. So we've almost come in not to cut it away, not to burn it, but to actually give it a voice and let it be expressed and let it go ultimately. So it's through the expression of the emotion is a huge part within our reincarnation. And how many people struggle with that? We're coming into a time when emotion is very in the air, isn't it? Some people might say, in a way, we've become too emotional. That's a discussion for another time. But it's to express emotion. So within that, I feel like we choose is really important. That power of choice, and that we do live somewhere that is free will as well. We have free.
Well, I agree, and this is where you're going back to the beginning about why you choose to reincarnate, because you can progress in spirit. People said you have to go back to this. No, you don't. If you don't want to, but it takes you a lot longer. And what you can learn over and over again, the research shows through our own personal experience and the regressions we've done and the books we've read, and there's a common truth and thread that the earth it can be a very alluring place, because what you can learn in one lifetime, like you mentioned, the emotions you can experience. I can talk about my life.
Yeah.
The stuff I've experienced from my childhood to being a teenager to my 20s, even in my 30s, I just think I'm so grateful. Did I feel grateful at the time? No. I would, talking about, I personally chose a very tough childhood. I was the victim. I was angry at my parents. Of course I was. I didn't come to where I am now without a lot of inner reflection, a lot of inner work. And that takes commitment, that takes dedication, of course, and that awareness and experience. And I'm so grateful that I've experienced that. But I chose that tough childhood, that abusive childhood, for a purpose. And I know you chose a very different path, didn't you, for your reincarnation? So what kind of path did you choose for your child? Was it quite easier for you?
Well, I'm unsure. I'm unsure because in a way, you could say it was better than most, but especially as a child, every experience is very different.
Yeah.
Like I had quite difficult times outside of family scenarios in school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really struggled. But like you say, what it allows us to do is do some of these teachings and some of this knowledge is understand the how and why that we come back to experience that emotion.
I just wanted to because I don't hope you don't mind sharing this, but I remember you experiencing something a while ago why you chose, because you chose your parents before your reincarnation. You said, I'm going to reincarnate, but I need a stable family for me to do the work that I do. So why do you think that was important for you?
Well, maybe in lifetime, before, maybe it was more instability. Maybe I had a bit more of a tougher time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a bit of an agreement I made. Like we say, it's free will. That can be part of your agreement. Say, I need a solid base here if I'm going to do this work.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm just theorizing that. I don't know for 1,000%. Okay. But that is what I would say would be my gut feeling. Yeah.
That you've chosen a specific family as part of that experience.
Yeah.
And I find that childhood stuff is initiation to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And again, I think you over and over again, Chris, you mentioned about over-identifying to this earth's life. You're not the victim. Everything that happens is for your highest good. Yeah. That's something that we get over and over and over again as part of our channelings and teachings.
I mean, we'll talk about traps in a minute, but I do feel where people get trapped is, and this can be I don't want to say knowing too much, but in a way, it's like, don't be fearful of living your life. oh, I'm going to accumulate karma, I'm going to do something, I'm not we're really, life is just to be experienced. Experience it. You're not going to understand everything at first, but you might do, like with your life, down the line, 10 years down the line, you might understand it better. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to experience. There's no place like the earth. It's a very auspicious time. Might not feel like it. Might feel like total crap a lot of the time. And people are like, why have I chose to come back? And oh my God, I'm never coming back here again.
That means you're going to come back again and again and again.
We've all learned that, haven't we, several times? And, you know, it's, in certain respects, it can be very tough for us. Yeah. You know, it is a time, but it is an unfolding time that we'll all look back on and say, I was here on the earth when it was all happening. Because I don't think there'll be another time like we're living.
I don't. And my take on things on a global scale is, I used to sit there and watch the news and watch politics, and it's something that I felt very passionate about. And then there was periods where I used to get super triggered. And what I came to learn actually from the universe was actually what I was seeing in the outside of myself and the outside world was actually a mirror to aspects of myself that I've not healed, that I've come back to help heal and be part of that healing process, part of that experience. So that took me out of blaming. It's the politicians, it's the leaders, it's the NHS, it's the doctors. And actually what the outside was showing us is empowering ourselves in our awakening, in our own taking self-responsibility for the world. That it's not, if you want to bring change to the world, don't expect others to do it. It's like very simply, it's like walking down the street. How many of us walk down the street and say, I'm not picking that rubbish up. That's not my job. Well, if everybody picked up a piece of litter, there would be no litter on the floor.
Yeah.
It's taking responsibility. You want to change the world, change yourself.
Yeah.
Heal yourself. And I think that's where, going back to what you keep instilling in here at the Perfect Mountain, we're not victims. You're here to take responsibility. What you see in social media, what you see in the world is a mirror to what we've come back to experience.
And what you'll ultimately see is that a lot of things that you might find yourself complaining about, governments, etc., and people say, well, the other beings are going to come save us. Collectively, if that was that thought process was followed through, what you're going to get is other beings coming. You're going to have a new government. In a way, it's the same scenario will keep playing out, because we don't need people to be in charge of us. We're perfectly capable of leading our own lives. We all know right from wrong deep down, whether we want to admit it or not, 100%. So yeah, so we've talked a few times about like soul contracts or karmic contracts. We must stick on the soul contracts. How would you explain a soul contract?
Well, just again, take us out of the human experience. Let's take ourselves back to spirit.
Yeah.
You're in spirit, you are in your soul group, which, your larger soul groups can be thousands and the smaller soul groups can be hundreds. Then you've got soul clusters. There's maybe 10 of us. And some of us are chatting away in spirit and we're saying, do you want to come back to the earth? There's lessons that I want to have some more experiences. I think I'm ready to have some more experiences. There's things I didn't get quite right in my previous life, but in the process, let's talk from my experience. How the process worked, I know that I've come back to heal. I've come back to create. I've got a divine purpose. But also that I had this feeling that in order for me to be a service to the divine, to spirit, I could also repay off some karma and some psychic debt. And in order for you for a soul to work on your psychic debt or your karma, you're going to create certain soul contracts with certain souls that guarantees a certain experiences. Yes, once you hit the earth, things can change.
Yeah.
We know that. But soul contract is an agreement between two souls. For an example, deepening that understanding is, I'm going to be your life partner in this life.
Yeah.
I know me and you have got a soul agreement. We bicker like cat and dog. We argue, but Something pulls us. We've been friends for 25 years. We know, and I don't know how you feel, there is definitely a soul agreement between me and you. We know that. I know that there's a soul agreement with me and my partner, Adam.
Yeah.
I know that. I can't explain it. I know that. So I would assume that your children have got a soul contract with you. So I would say the soul contracts are more people that play more significant roles in your life.
The significant characters.
Significant characters in your life. And I think the first most important soul contract that you'll have, which is your mother.
Yeah.
Who becomes your mother who's going to carry the physical body that you're going to have.
And what I find interesting about this side of things is that some contracts or soul contracts aren't always for the full lifetime either. And I know we've both experienced this, because I used to be of this thought of, any connection is for life, that you make, but it isn't always. I'm sure people listening might have experienced where even with friendships, even with family, is actually that's been completed now. Whatever we've come back to learn from one another has been completed. It's time to go our separate ways now.
Well, just visualize it again in spirit. You're making certain soul contracts, and you in that contract to say, right, me and you, we're going to come back, and we're going to co-create some kind of space. We don't know it's called the Purple Mountain yet, but we know we're going to create some kind of space. So we're going to have an agreement. We're going to have a soul contract. We're going to meet up. We're going to have a little bit of a childhood journey first. And some point, we're going to meet. If it aligns, we'll meet up and we're going to co-create. That's going to be our contract, me and you, Chris. And I think along the way, you're going to have different soul contracts, but you've come back to have certain experiences. Once the soul has experienced and learned certain lessons through that experience, it's okay then at that point to let go. And this is why sometimes people feel guilty over friendships. We've had experienced this a lot at the Purple Mountain, where a lot of people have come in and we felt guilty for letting people go. And actually, the very simple lesson is the lesson's been learned. Whatever you come back to learn or come back to do, or you come back to experience, it's sorted. And that's amazing. Yeah. That's fabulous.
You made such a good point about guilt. Mm-hmm. How many people have experienced guilt in their life? And if you look back, and it's something even, in parts I've struggled with still. And I was watching something the other day, and that reminded me, even with reincarnation, looking back and saying, what have you to be guilty for? Everything's unfolded the way it was meant to. Everything's happened as part of this experience. Just let that go. It's all happened as it was meant to happen.
And, Albert talks about it often, and he mentioned this years ago, go with the flow of the river. The minute we try to control things, is even when we look at death, I'll just give you an example. There's a client that I work with, and she felt so guilty because she went home for half an hour and her brother was there, and her mum died in her brother's house, but she wasn't that close with the other side.
Very common this scenario.
And then she's gone home and she's felt so guilty. And what I tried to explain to her, and what the soul was trying to explain in the reading, was that the contract wasn't really for her. It was more to finish off the contract with her son. He needed it more than she did, on a conscious level, on the soul level. And that helped to release that guilt, I wasn't there when my mum died, or wasn't there when my dad died. What it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Is learning that what's happened has happened for a reason, a purpose, gets you out of the victim state again.
You hear that all the time, specifically in readings where loved ones have been there all day or all night, and then they've stepped out of the room and the mum or whoever has passed in that moment. And they might have waited. There is a design behind things that possibly even difficult for us to comprehend fully as we're here, because we're part of the experience. One thing I would like to discuss, we've covered quite a bit already, haven't we, really, is animals as well.
Wow, it's interesting because we were talking about this yesterday in the kitchen, weren't we? And again, there's things that have been surfacing within me. It is interesting because when I've been reading this book with Michael Newton, and I was reading I think there was 20, 30 different cases of clients he regressed. And I thought, I can relate to that. That's experience. I've experienced that. I know that. And when I was reading the book, flashes of color was coming out, and it's activated things that have been within me, that like pieces of the jigsaw piece that came together. And one of them was to do with my cat, George. Now, in a previous life in the 1800s, I can't be specific with the actual regression, I was quite of a wealthy woman. Do you remember this part?
Oh, yeah.
I was a wealthy woman. And me, my husband had 2 children. And in that life, I married my daughter off to somebody that she didn't love, and she hated it. She wanted to be with somebody else. And my son was gay. And we cut him out of the will, we cut him out, we ostracized him from the family. And we were quite a while for me and my husband. I drank too much. We had affairs. It wasn't a very nice marriage.
Yeah.
It was quite difficult. But I know in that life, while I was lying in this big room, and there was a red carpet, big poster bed, and I was lying there and I was dying, I remember seeing a big picture of a dog. It's a little look like a chihuahua. It's not a chihuahua, but like a lot of dog. And I know now through my regressions and inner work that dog is my cat, George. He followed me into this life. But what's more interesting is, because it was a very unhappy marriage, me and my husband, Adam, my partner now, was the one. I didn't want another cat when Freddie died, which was my first cat. He brought this cat, and part of his soul contract was to bring that animal back into my life for whatever reason. If it was his karma or not, I don't know, but came into my life, back into my life. So animals do follow you from previous life for whatever reason. They might have a soul contract with you as well.
And that's a perfect example of what detail there can be when we start to get that scenario. Now the pieces get put into place.
But like you said, Chris, just because, and I find this really, really important, anybody listening to this and they want to know about more reincarnation, is just enjoy the journey. You're not going to get all the answers. You're not going to understand all the answers. Even just me delving deeper, 15 years of deeper work, I'm only now piecing together things that I'm learning 15, 20 years ago. Pieces of the puzzle has to fit in when the time's right. It's not going to quicken your progression.
And I think that's where there can be a trap in a big trap. So for me is over identifying in past lives as well. Too much. And it could be very, those past life experiences can be important, but if you've had them in a regression, which will be a subject for another episode, or if you've had a dream state, we remembered a past life, you've had a vision, that's been brought to you because it's going to be helpful now in this life as well. And you're not going to understand everything here and now, and don't try, because that can really put you in a tough place. It's like trying to read a book and you don't understand it, but you're saying, I should read this book. You can't force things. It's incremental. Like me and you have been involved in this work for 20, 25 years now. And there's been so many incremental teachings, even in the last year, that
absolutely
probably wouldn't accept that when I first came in.
Absolutely.
Things have to be built up and understood, and plus things are changing in the world where what we need to know is changing as well. For specific sides of the work. Me and you, we both work as mediums as well. We work in this environment where it's very helpful to know. So this isn't just actually a which I never thought about.
Yeah.
It's not just for us. It's so we have that knowledge that when we're receiving things, we're able to, that knowledge will be very helpful as we share things that
I didn't look at that way. That's a pretty good point, that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes just because you don't know or has not been shown doesn't mean that spirit are purposely hiding that from you, or your higher self's hiding that for you. If you've not been shown, then trust, you just don't need to know that in that moment. Like you said, don't fixate. And sometimes, this is, if you're going to ask the question, be prepared for the answer. I remember asking the trance medium who was running the circle originally, who and I was asking Spirit, and I was so eager. I want to know who my soul partner is. And Spirit said, I can't tell you that, my son. And I thought, why can't he tell me? But when I thought about it, and he then later explained to me that I can affect the plan. That actually what he did tell me was my soul partner has reincarnated, but has chosen a male body. He will have a wife. He's going to have children. I'm not meant to have that same path. We're not meant to come back together.
Yeah.
And that, at first, that really upset me. But then I come to accept later on, and even to this moment, that I trust that he's got a different purpose than me.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because I remember a scenario in one of the circles we were in many years ago where there was somebody who was aware that two other sitters in the group, they used to be a family.
Right. Oh, yes.
And they asked for that, and they focused that much on it that I feel it caused a degree of separation in the actual group.
Yeah.
And that to me is, it's good to know, but over-identifying is that saying, well, we are different to the group now. We're more deeply connected. Where probably everybody in that room was part of the soul group or connected in some way through some lifetimes. So it's good to know information. The other side is sometimes you keep digging and keep asking that question, you're going to get it. And it
Well, what did Albert say to us recently? And I listened to the recording. Is people ask these questions, and I want to use this. I want to use this teaching. Actually, is number one, how is this going to help you in this moment? That's the question we need to ask. Is how is this, knowing this, going to help you? A lot of the time, and this is what I find this in regression when we get into the higher consciousness side of it, is nosy questions.
Yeah.
But how is this really going to shift things in your life? How is this going to help? Because actually knowing about your past lives is not really going to quicken your progression. It's not, you're not going to skip class or make things easy for you. But what it does do, it helps us get us out of the mind where we do over-identify. That sense of awareness stops us reacting, stopping and asking us questions. It helps us go within ourselves, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. And it is the most important life is the one you're living now. You know, you're not a victim of anything. It can be difficult, can be hard at times. But these teachings, they can be very, very helpful. I think, and ultimately, I don't feel we're on, we can imprison, the only person that can imprison you is yourself. Now, if you're going to, it's like, for example, if you're going to choose to be in a lower state, what sort of energy is that going to attract?
Well, for me, you're absolutely spot on. Where my take on things of fear, and where people talk about marching and saying we need more freedom, we need freedom. What is that? What are you telling yourself? What are you creating that state is by saying I'm not free.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the double-edged sword. That is the side of the mind, is the illusion that we are in prison. And actually, we're not. That's because you think that. I know I am a sovereign being of love and light. Does that make sense? But I just want to mention a little bit about comparison. And and what's your thoughts on people's comparing each other, who say, well, I'm more enlightened than you, I'm more developed than you, or I've had more of a dramatic life than you?
Well, I don't think it can be measured, because it's like, for example, some lives might look harder or easier from the outside, but you don't know if you haven't lived it. It's a little bit like some people are brought up in or have experienced some very violent situations, for example. That's very visual, isn't it? Whereas other people might be more had more emotional struggles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So to me, comparison's always the thief of joy. You can't compare anything.
Yeah.
You look at somebody and you think they're getting a better deal. You romanticize it a little bit. You know, not everything. It's like a little bit looking. Say if you looked at a couple and you said, they look like they've got such a happy life. Things must be so easy for them. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. So you don't know what you don't know. So it's like, just pay attention to your life. And that thing, it is a bit of a human condition of feeling like everybody's getting a better deal. Everybody's where they're meant to be, and that comes with even the millionaires of the world. If you think they've come back for a reason and a purpose, something's happening there. Even these people who call themselves celebrities, what do they say in the end? I've got no life. I don't feel my life's my own. There's something in everything that's there to challenge and experience, because ultimately it's a very auspicious time.
Absolutely. We know that people that have chosen a life that is more materialistic, it means they have more powerful lessons to learn. So don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't look at somebody that's a homeless person and treat them like victims. We all choose our path.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is with that's important to mention is there are those, and we've had this passed forward from spirit several times, who have more of a rest in life. So they may
what's that then?
They might have had in their last life quite a tumultuous life where a lot
tumultuous.
They might have had quite a tumultuous life. So they've had a lot happen, or a lot set out for them. They set themselves out a lot.
Yeah.
So they've done that, completed it. So they come back and they might have what you call a bit more of a resting life, a bit more of a quiet life. Dolores Cannon called it a potato life. We just bring up your family, get on with things. So for anybody in the spiritual movement, and you look at people outside of it and you think they're not awake or not spiritual, they're living the life they're meant to live. Perhaps they did a lot of that in their last life, or perhaps they're preparing to do it in the next one.
Well, I was just about to say to you, and I don't know why it's just come back to me, I had a blueprint reading by a lovely medium a few years ago, and it mentioned that it was absolutely spot on, talking about my life, this incarnation. And it makes sense, because I'm here to research, I'm here to learn, I'm here to study, I'm a studier. And best way to study is to immerse yourself in the dirt, in the dark, and in the light. And she said it's all in preparation for my next incarnation. And she couldn't tell me too much on it because it could influence me in this life. Is that it's going to be very important, because I've got some very, very, not that my life not as not important. Again, I'm comparing again. I'm doing it's the human mind, but it's preparing me in my next incarnation, which I try not to think about. Well, I try to focus on this life now.
They say, don't they, that we're not choosing, we've already chosen, we'll just experience the life that we've chosen.
Does that mean we don't have free will then? If everything's chosen already?
I think because it's us that's chose it.
So we have free will, but we have to live. It's like writing a book. My choice was to write the book, but now I have to read it and I have to experience it. Right.
But
can I change any of it?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's in the experience, but I hope everybody's enjoyed this episode. A lot more you could talk on reincarnation, but we just wanted to touch on a few subjects, which I feel we have done actually. If you'd like to have your say, please comment. Please let us know your thoughts, your feelings. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Please click subscribe until we speak again. Send lots of love and speak to you very soon. Bye.